All right, guys, so this is the second half, or I guess this finishes off, we have less than a half left, sections 11.1. So if you haven't watched the first video that goes with 11.1, please watch that first because this won't make sense until you do. But if you've already watched it, this is the place you need to be. All right, so we're on example 3. Okay, so we have this tire. It says the dimensions of the tire are shown. To the nearest foot, how far does the tire travel when it makes 15 revolutions? Okay, so guys, 1 revolution would be all the way around 1 time. That's what a revolution is. Okay, so when I do that, think of what that means. So if this is 1 revolution all the way around 1 time, how far does it go? Okay, I'm talking about my circumference of this tire. Okay, so I want to find my circumference. So 1 circumference would equal 1 revolution. Okay, so if I find how many circumference, or if I find my circumference, I can just multiply that by 15 to get how far I go in 15 revolutions. Okay, so before I do that, I need to find my radius. Okay, well, from here to here is 5.5 inches. All the way here is 15 and a half, or is 15, sorry. So that means from here to the half is 7.5, here to the other half is 7.5. Okay, so really all I want to do is I want to add 5.5 plus 7.5 to where I get my radius is 13. Or some of you may have looked at this and just added all these, knew that was the diameter, and then divided by 2, and that's fine too. All right, anyways, because I know my radius is 13, I can find my circumference by 2 pi r. My r is 13. So my circumference is 13 times 2 is 26 pi. And if I put that in my calculator, it wants us to round to the nearest foot. So if I put that into my calculator, 26 pi gives me roughly 81.68. So my circumference is 81.68, and that is what, feet? Okay, well now, that's 1 revolution. I go around once. I want to go around 15 times. So I want to multiply this number times 15. So when I plug that into my calculator, I get roughly 1225.2 feet. It wants us to round to the nearest foot, so our nearest foot would just be roughly 1225 feet. That's how many feet we go if this tire goes around 15 times. All right, so once again, here's another word problem. It says the curves at the end of this tracker shown are 180-degree arcs of this circle, meaning that from here to here, this is 180 degrees, and from here to here, this is 180 degrees. So these are kind of like half circles. Okay. Ooh. Oh my goodness. There we go. All right. So the radius of the arc of the runner is 36.8. Okay, so from here to here is 36.8. About how far does this runner travel to go around the track? So we want to know how far is it all the way around this track. Okay, so I want you to use what you've learned, use what you already know. I want you to do this one on your own, and then we'll go over it. All right, let's go over this. So the circumference of an entire circle. Now, when I talk about the circles, I'm only talking about like these half circles here and this half circle here. Okay, I'm not talking about the inside. So I plug in the radius, 36.8. I get their circumference is 231.22. Well, notice this part on the left is half of the circumference, so I divided it by 2. The part on the right is half of the circumference, I divided by 2. So half of 231.22 is 115.6 and 115.6. Okay, so to find the length of this entire track, I add this plus this, and then these straights here, it tells us 84.39, so I add all those up, and you should get roughly 400 meters. All right. So last but not least, we're going to talk about how to convert degrees to radians and then radians to degrees. Okay, so what you need to remember is that pi radians is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so anytime you see any kind of angle measure that has pi in it, you're talking about radians, okay? And it won't have a degree symbol. So pi radians equals 180 degrees. Therefore, if I put pi radians over 180 degrees, that would be 1. Or 180 degrees divided by pi radians, that would also be 1 because these are the same. Okay, so when I multiply degrees to radians, okay, I'm going to multiply by pi radians over 180 degrees. When I go from radians to degrees, I'm going to multiply 180 over pi radians. Okay, and we'll do some examples and hopefully it'll make more sense. All right, so example A or example 5, number A. It says convert 45 degrees to radians. Okay, so you can think of 45 over 1 if you like. We're going to multiply this. Now think of stoichiometry. We have pi degrees, or pi radians, sorry, equals 180 degrees. Okay, so think of stoichiometry and chemistry. We want the degrees to cancel and to be left with radians. So I'm going to have 180 degrees on bottom and pi on the top because these degrees cancel. Okay, so if I put these together, 45 pi over 180. Oh, I don't have the degree symbol anymore, sorry. Now 45 over 180, that's just 1 over 4, so I'm left with pi over 4, and this is my final answer. Okay, you don't have to write radians because it's understood that if there's a pi in it, you're talking about radians. All right, now let's look at B. Now we want to convert 4 pi over 3 radians to degrees, so 4 pi over 3. Okay, we're going to multiply. Remember, the only thing we can multiply is by 1 without changing it. Okay, so here, this degree, or the pi symbol tells us we're talking about radians. So we want that pi symbol on bottom. Okay, so we want 180 degrees over pi. All right, so when I do that, pi and pi's cancel. I'm left with 4 times 180 degrees over 3. Well, guys, 180 over 3 reduces to 60. So just 4 times 60 degrees, which is 240 degrees. Okay. All right, now I want you to do C and D on your own, and then we'll go over them. All right, so on C, you take the 15 degrees times pi over 180. The degree symbol cancels. You're left with 15 pi over 180. And 15 over 180 reduces to 1 over 12, so you're just left with pi over 12. Now, anytime you're putting this in big ideas, it wants you to give radians. You want pi in your answer. All right, so on D, convert 3 pi over 12 radians to degrees. Here you'd multiply by 180 over pi so that the pi's can cancel. So then you're left with 3 times 180 over 2. Well, guys, 180 over 2, that's just 90, so 3 times 90 is 270 degrees.